What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, your home for the 2020 World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined as usual by Daniel Starkand, but special guest tonight, Greg Bergman, is with us pregame and postgame. Greg, I'll start with you. It's Game 5. We're going to get into the Corey Knebel news in a minute, but how are you feeling about Game 5?
I'm feeling good-ish. I mean, like a little bit good, but also kind of a little bit worried. I really feel like everything that we've seen in the series, though, that it leans more towards the Dodgers despite the score.
Yeah. Daniel, we talked a lot about the Corey Knebel news. How are you feeling big picture about the game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm nervous, of course. I mean, I've been nervous since last night. Didn't sleep very well, but I mean, exciting. This is what you play for, right? It's a Game 5 winner take all between rivals who are the best two teams in baseball. I predicted before the series that the Dodgers would win this series in 5 games. I feel like the baseball world just kind of deserved a 5-game series between these two teams, but definitely nervous. Hopefully the Dodgers could score some early runs to kind of help those nerves a little bit.
Yeah, who cares about the baseball world, Daniel? My heart can't take Game 5 of this. Like, could this have been over a few days ago? As everybody in the chat, we appreciate you joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. The biggest storyline, and Greg, Daniel, and I talked about this earlier, so I'll come to you first. The biggest storyline is the surprising news that Corey Knebel will be starting the game tonight. Of course, Julio Urias will still get the bulk of the innings we expect. That seems to be the line the Dodgers are throwing out there. We don't know when. Is it the second inning? Is it the third inning? Is it the fourth inning? How do you feel about the decision to go with an opener in the biggest, most important game of the season?
Yeah, first of all, you guys are insane. This is gonna be like your second time going live. You're gonna go third after post game too. Basically, this is just Dodger Heads Day, so that's pretty cool. But I started off, I didn't understand it at first, and I tried to wrap my mind around it, and I tried to think to myself, all right, why are they doing this? What's going on? And at first I said, I don't like it. I don't think this is a good move. Just go with Urias and just let him do his thing. He's been great all year. There's no reason to do it. Then I started kind of like looking more into the numbers and started to think more about it. And it does make sense. I would still be totally fine if Urias was the starter and just went 1 through 6 or however long he goes for. But having Knebel start off and being able to it kind of mess with them a little bit. They did it around 11 o'clock in the afternoon. And so you had to force the Giants to start thinking about what they were going to do and giving them time to overthink what they're going to do. I think it makes some sense. I'm going to tell you, though, if it doesn't work, Andrew Freeman and Dave Roberts are in trouble.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think the other sort of wrench, Daniel, that we didn't talk about is you said it made them think at 11. Well, Dave Roberts came out and said he actually told Gabe Kapler last night. Right. I mean, how do you feel about that, Daniel? Does that bug you at all?
I don't know why you do that. Like, to me, the reason you make this move last minute is like Greg said, like you get them thinking, you get them overthinking. Well, I know last night isn't like a huge difference. Like, it's only a handful of hours, but they still had more time to think about it. Like, they weren't caught off guard completely the same way we were when the news came out this morning. So I don't think like it's a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, but to me, like, if you're going to come at them with this surprise move, like, let's really surprise them, you know?
Maybe he is allowing them more time to overthink this, and he thinks Gabe Kapler's going to get 5 hours of sleep instead of 7 hours of sleep because he's just dreaming about where Darren Ruff is going to go in his lineup today. You know, you never know how this thing is going to play out. One thing that was interesting to me, and Greg, I'll ask you, I think the biggest assumption that you have to sort of wrestle with as you evaluate this decision is Julio Urias negatively impacted by coming out of the bullpen? Because I think if we could all say, like, if it was definitively provable that Julio Urias is going to give you the exact same performance, then clearly this would be the right move because it forces the Giants to figure out what they're going to do with their lineup. And if you're going to get the same Julio Urias for 4, 5, or 6 innings, whether it starts in the second or whether it starts in the first, then it's a no-brainer. So the question then is, can you get the same version of Julio as a reliever that you would as a starter? And he has never done it this year. 32 starts, no relief appearances. Of course, number of key relief appearances last year. And the last piece I was talking with somebody on Twitter about is my thought was, well, you know, the hard part about coming out of the bullpen, you don't exactly know when you're going to start pitching. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized anytime you're the road pitcher, you never really know when you're going to start pitching either. You have a sense of when first pitch is, but you don't exactly know when the bottom of the first is. So do you think there's a big drop-off in what it's like to be a relief pitcher versus to be a starter for a guy like Urias who has done this, just not this season?
So I think that's the biggest point of it that you said there, Jeff. It's that he's done this. So if this was Walker Buehler, if this was Max Scherzer, if this was anybody, which I know people are like, you wouldn't do this to those two guys. Well, if it was anybody else, I would say, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. Absolutely not. They have the way that they go about things, their pregame warmups, all that other stuff. Julio Urias has done this over and over and time again, and had huge outings, especially when he had 3 innings in the deciding game of Game 7 of World Series last year, 6 of the World Series last year. He knows how to pitch in these situations. He's been there, done that. And I'm sure he didn't just find this out at the same time that it went out at 11 o'clock. I'm sure that Dave Roberts, at least I would hope, would tell Julio Urias before he told.
He told Kapler, and then Urias was his second call after Kapler.
Right. Hey, Gabe, just letting you know, we're not going to start Urias, but then we go to Urias. It doesn't make any sense. So he's known for a while. He's been able to get himself ready for it. He's good to go. Yeah. So no, I think you're like you were saying. It doesn't negatively impact him in any way because he's already used to this type of coming in and out of the game. So and not a problem.
And Roberts said that, right? Like that only Urias is the only guy that he would do this with. It's interesting, of course. I love Freezing Cold Takes retweeted the Dodgers like the next game is Julio's or whatever tweet. Like, well, I guess it's not his, but it's just funny the way that it all shook out. And I'm, I would imagine that this has been the plan all along, that the Dodgers didn't panic and make this move. The question then was, what were the Giants going to do? And Daniel, we waited and waited and waited and waited for that Giant. It's like, again, ridiculous. The Dodgers put out their lineup like 6 hours ago. The Giants put out their lineup like an hour and a half ago. You noted on Twitter, so you've thought about this. They have 2 more lefties in their lineup than they did the first time that they would have faced Urias in Game 2. What did you make of the Giants lineup? Did you see any crazy overreactions? I mean, Longoria batting 8th seems to be the most extreme version of it, but what did you make of their lineup in light of the gamesmanship of Knebel versus Urias?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they got 2 extra lefties in there that they didn't have in Game 2, and both of those guys, one of them is the second baseman, La Stella. He has a 500 OPS against lefties this year, and the other one, Yastrzemski, I think his was like 513 or something. So, but both of those guys are not good against lefties. So if they're starting the game, if they stay in the game, then that's the advantage you got out of this. Is Julio now has 2 easier at bats on paper, of course. Or the other option would be those guys get their 1 at bat against Knebel or whoever else, and then the Giants go to their bench. And in that scenario, you at least made them burn 2 bench pieces. So to me, I think it kind of worked out for the Dodgers on paper. We'll see if it works out on the field now.
Yeah, I mean, and Daniel, just to piggyback on that, I mean, is this going to, I mean, we know how the national media, we know how most fans are going to react. For you, are you comfortable with however this shakes out, or are you kind of, well, let's see how this plays out, and then I'll give you my thoughts afterwards?
So to me, I'm comfortable with it just because the logic is there behind it. Like, this isn't just a decision they made on a whim with nothing to back it up. Like, I guarantee a lot of thought went into this. Andrew Friedman is a very smart guy. I said this on the show earlier. Like, he knows a lot more about baseball than any of us. Like, let's just be honest. So that's why I could live with it, because the logic is sound. But, like, if Corey Knebel goes out there and gives up 2 or 3 runs, like, everyone is going to criticize them. And Dave Roberts even said himself, like, making this decision opens themselves up for criticism, and they're okay with it because they feel that it gives them the best chance to win.
Yeah, and that's the last interesting piece to me. And Greg, real quick, by the way, we're getting some comments in the chat. They think you look like Alex Vesia's. You could be Alex Vesia's brother here. So just in case,
it's usually Chris Taylor that I get. So I mean, like, Vesia's just got that little mustache. I have a full-on beard. Chris Taylor's got the beard. Come on, we've been here before. It's Taylor. All right.
On the last question on this decision, do you think this impacts the clubhouse? Like, do you think there's like positive momentum from a decision like this? Like, all right, hell yeah, like, we're going for it. Like, we're just putting everything on the table in full send. Do you think there's like whatever, who cares, neutral, doesn't really matter? Like, how do you think this might impact the players in the clubhouse when they get this news, presumably yesterday or today?
I don't think it impacts them either way. I don't think they worry about any of this stuff. They're just ready to get out on the field and just play. They're going to go with whatever they've known that they're going to be this lineup for a while. The thing that I find interesting about this Giants lineup, by the way, just to go to that real fast, Tommy La Stella, there's no chance, right, that he goes longer than when Knebel's in, right? Because he's got the Achilles problem. He left the game the other night. He left a game before that. He's only out there to face Corey Knebel, and that's it, from in my mind at least.
Well,
yeah, and that would be the thought with batting him leadoff too. You could at
Yep.
least guarantee that at bat.
yeah, and that's the interesting piece, right? Because as some people have pointed out, the flip side then becomes, well, when do the Dodgers pull Urias? Like the thought process would be the Dodgers are going to get to bat 3 times. And so theoretically, I mean, look, let's hope the pitcher spot comes up in the first inning, okay? If we're Dodger fans, and we'll figure out what to do from there. But presumably they could get 2 innings out of the bullpen, and then Urias could come in for the third. That would just about get them most of the way through the lineup. But the flip side is there's nothing saying the Dodgers have to bring Urias in the second or the third. I mean, Daniel, do you think there's a chance that the Dodgers essentially throw a complete bullpen game with Urias as a late inning guy or even as the closer in this situation?
That would definitely be interesting. I'm not expecting that. I think if Knebel goes 1, 2, 3, you might just go straight to Julio in the second because Brandon Crawford's hitting 4th and Yastrzemski's hitting 6th. So you got 2 lefties there. I guess the other option would be to go to Vesia right then and there if you want, but then you kind of burn him and you don't have another lefty late in the game. So I think we'll see Julio kind of early. It might not be the second, maybe the third, like you said. It depends. I guess maybe if they could sneak a pinch hitter there in a big AB, like in the second inning or whatever, that would be ideal. But I would be very surprised if they just ran through their whole bullpen and then like in the 7th inning went to Julio and not having any, like, you can't really plan for extra innings if you do that, you know?
Yeah, and it's interesting that the idea of bringing Vesia in to face those 3 lefties, right? Because the advantage to playing things the way they have is to be able to go right, left, and then back to right at some point, to where you put the righty in, so you take advantage of that. They have to put all their lefties in the lineup. Then you go to lefty, where those guys get pulled out, and then you go back to righties, Treinen, Jansen, etc. late in the game, and you've got the righty-on-righty matchups that you want. So definitely, I'm just, one thing I love about this is I feel like it's a power move by the Dodgers of like, okay, we're going to do something unpredictable and we're going to make you react. And now they're second guessing, like, when is Urias coming in? Is it going to be next? Or do they go to Bickford? Do they go to Vesia? Like, they have so many decisions now that the Giants have to make, and you're putting a guy in Kepler who hasn't been in those spots. Now we know he's sabermetrics. We know it's the analytics. So I'm sure he's got a detailed plan and he's just going to stick to it. But this is also a guy who has not been afraid to burn through relievers, to burn through bench bats, and kind of just take his chances and hope that it doesn't come back to bite him at the end. So we will see how that all plays out. Let's flip it over, Greg, and go to the other side of the coin, which is the Dodgers offense. As many people have pointed out, none of this crap matters if Logan Webb throws a 2-hit, 10 strikeout performance through 7 innings or something, right? So
pretty much
we've seen the Dodger offense come alive. In the last game, they scored 7, probably easily could have been 11 or 12 if they just get a couple more hits with runners in scoring position. How confident are you? Webb shuts them down, but now it's 5-6 days later. They're seeing the same guy again. The lineup has got a little more confidence, obviously a little bit different look than he saw with Gavin Lux in the game. Cody Bellinger a little more rejuvenated. How do you feel about the Dodger offense in this game?
So I feel really good about the Dodgers offense right now. I mean, you've seen that they've had some trouble. Obviously, game 1 and 3, they didn't score any runs, but games 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 2, 3, and 4, they were hitting the ball hard. Yeah. And they were actually smoking balls, but the Giants defense has just been really, really good. So this is where that kind of mind game starts coming in between Webb and the Dodgers. So does Webb go immediately back to exactly what he was throwing, that low outside pitch that they were swinging from their heels out every single time? Or does he start attacking the zone, thinking that the Dodgers are going to start sitting back? So it just really depends on what's going to happen there. Who's going to do what is interesting. But the Dodgers offense in general, they're looking good. I know they're not getting runs with runners, hits with runners in scoring position, but they're hitting balls that are just happen to be caught at the wall. Or Brandon Crawford's making some amazing jumping catch that if he was one step to the left or one step to the right, he's not making that catch. So, I mean, the luck at some point has to run out. And I really think that the way that they've built this lineup, and I really love that they're putting Taylor in that 8th spot, just like they did Will Smith, then Taylor in that 8th spot, because you don't have that bottom of the lineup where it's like Bellinger, Taylor, Urias at that point where nobody can get a hit. You actually, Taylor stops that. You're able to get hits off from him.
Yeah, totally agree. Daniel, I've said I think the Dodgers need 5 runs tonight. Do you think they get 5 runs out of this lineup?
I hope so. I mean, we made predictions the other day, and I predicted a 4-2 win. So I guess I'm gonna say no, but they still win the game. I definitely think they do better against Webb than they did in game one. I mean, it's hard to do worse.
Heck, a bold prediction. Hold on.
I
We're going to put that in bold. They're going to do better than they did in the first thing.
No,
Hot take.
I think Greg made a good point. Like, it'll be interesting to see if Webb makes an adjustment. Like, he was living on that low and outside corner, and the umpire was giving him those calls, and to his credit, like, he was exploiting it. That's exactly what you're supposed to do with, when you're a pitcher. So it'll be interesting to see, like, if the umpire isn't giving him those calls and he's forced to go in the zone, then I think the Dodgers have a much better chance, because they could, the Dodgers are really good at hitting balls in the zone. It's when they're forced to chase that they kind of get in trouble. So I'm not feeling probably not as confident as Greg and you, but I think they could get 4 or 5 runs and come out with the win.
More confident in that Matt Moreno guy, so at least you're more confident than him, right? Yeah. I mean, I think, Greg, the point you make about how hard the Dodgers have been hitting the ball is a good one, because I saw some people on Twitter today talking about how bad the Giants offense has been, in the sense of, hey, they're due. Like, they're not going to be this bad. Game 3, they just hit one basically hit, the Longoria home run. They win. Game 4, the offense struggles again. They get a 2 ground out RBIs, and that's how they tie it. The flip side, or put runs on the board. The flip side to me is, you could say the Dodgers have gotten unlucky, only scoring 7 runs. And I think they were the better offensive team in game 3 as well. And so it's fascinating to see that there's kind of 2 offenses that are both not living up to expectations. They're both, from an average perspective, not really taking advantage of all the opportunities placed in front of them. The question is, which of these groups is going to do it? One other thing I think is working in the Dodgers' favor, something we've talked about, is the bullpen situation. Corey Knebel's going to pitch the first inning, maybe 2. This is a guy we talked about earlier. He's made 2 appearances against the Giants, one in game 2 and one about a month and a half ago. He's got 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, no earned runs, 4 strikeouts in those 2. The Giants have barely seen this guy. On the flip side, the Dodgers have seen every reliever the Giants have had at least twice, sometimes 3 times, and most of those guys, they've had at least some good looks that you feel good about, with the exception of Doval, the closer, who just looks nasty, although Gavin Lux almost got to one. So I think that's the other storyline here, which is the Dodgers bullpen. And I think the Dodgers are putting some stock in their bullpen, saying, we trust Knebel. We trust if there's another guy that comes out, whether it's Gratterall or Bickford or Vesia or whoever, we trust Urias. And they're just sort of betting on either A, their offense picking up where they left off, or B, once we get into their bullpen, we think we have an advantage there. Do you think that's a fair approach to say, we like our chances even if we can get to the 6th or 7th inning in a tie game?
Oh, absolutely. The being able to see their bullpen and every single one of their guys multiple times is a huge advantage for them. And you're right. They've barely seen Knebel, and so that you're hoping that he can get through that first inning, maybe 2. But once they finally get to the bullpen, and that's what you're kind of hoping for, get there in the 5th inning, not the 7th or the 8th inning, So if they can get there early on, that's what the Dodgers are best at. They're best at being patient. They're best at working those counts, getting them deep, so they can get to the meaty center of that bullpen, right? Yeah. So I think that's exactly what they're going to try to do. And if they do it, it kind of feels like a Dodger win if they get there early.
Offensively, Daniel, what would your approach be with the Dodgers? Is it working the count, taking pitches, trying to get into that bullpen, or would you advocate for a more aggressive Corey Seager-esque approach to pitches?
I guess I see both sides of it. Like, part of me is like, let's get Webb out of this game as quick as possible. Like, I don't want him still in the game in the 7th inning. But then the other part is, like, if he's attacking you in the strike zone early, you got to go after it. Like, you can't afford to get in the hole 0-2 and then he's making you chase or whatever. So it's you kind of have to let him dictate it. Like, if he's in the strike zone, then you got to attack. But if he's outside of the strike zone, then you definitely got to be patient, get that pitch count up, and get into that bullpen, just like Greg said.
Yeah, Robert on YouTube saying Doug Eddings, who's behind the plate tonight, is known for a wide zone. So interesting to see how that one plays out. Obviously, we've seen some inconsistent zones. Sometimes we've seen consistent zones that aren't very good. I like the one guy who, 6 inches off the left side of the plate was always good. Off the right side of the plate, it was no good. He just was standing in the wrong place. I think that somebody needed to just scoot him over a couple inches. But we got a few minutes left. Game starts at 6:07. We're going to be off the air at 6 o'clock here. Again, Greg and I will be live post-game, so be sure to join us back here after that. But let's get to some predictions. Daniel, we have gone over this already. If you would like to change any part of your prediction, you're welcome to. I'll start with you. Give me a prediction and then give me a player of the game for presumably the Dodgers.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the prediction I had. I said a 4-2 Dodgers win. I think there's a lot of good pitching on both sides. I'm not expecting a ton of offense tonight. And I'm sticking with the player I picked as player of the game too, and that's Mookie Betts. Like I feel like this offense always comes and goes with him. If he could, even in the first inning, like just get on base, get things going in the right direction, that could go a long way.
Yeah, I just wanted you to say one more time that Corey Seager wasn't your prediction for player of the game. We just needed one more just take of that on tape, so we've got it.
He'll come up with a big hit too, though.
Yeah, he's got to. He's got to. Greg, what do you think? Prediction for you and a player of the game you like for the Dodgers?
So I'm going to go with also a low-scoring game, like Daniel's saying. So I'm going to say it's going to be a 3-1 Dodger victory. And my player of the game is actually going to be Julio Urias. And it's because he's going to come in either in the second or third inning, and he's going to go deep. I think he can get you 5-6 innings, and he's going to completely keep them off balance and hold them down to not scoring any runs or maybe one. So I think he's going to be the guy at the end of it, like, God, Julio just pitched fantastic, and he got us this W.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Julio pitches, if he can give you 5 or 6 strong, I find it hard to believe that the Dodgers are going to be out of this one, the shouldering of the load then doesn't flip to the offense and say, okay, we've done everything we can pitching-wise, much like Game 3. So I like that one. Let's get to some predictions in the chat. Justin's got Dodgers 9-2 with a 3-run first inning. Look, if we could get a 3-run first inning and just comfortably enjoy this game, Justin, I would be thrilled. Ray 2000's got 6-2 Dodgers. Cody Bellinger, player of the game, so I like the confidence there. Eddie's got.
What was yours?
Yeah, so I've got 5-3. I'm coming. Okay. 5-3 Dodgers for me. I think 5 is the number. I think the Dodgers can get to 5. I'm going to feel good about things. I just trust the bullpen. I'm having nightmares about a Kenley Jansen appearance in the 9th inning of a save opportunity. I'm going to be honest. But I'm fighting off those nightmares, and I'm saying Dodgers 5-3. And I have a terrible memory. I think my player of the game was Will Smith. Is that right, Daniel?
Yeah, that's who it was.
So give me Bill, right in the middle, hitting cleanup. The guy's just mashing, no fear whatsoever. So I think we get a big hit from Will Smith. Some other predictions here. Eddie's got 5-3 Dodgers. Abe's got 3-1 Dodgers. Dodger Love 518's got 6-5 Dodgers. THP 2-1 Dodgers. King at Goda
2-1
3-1 Giants. Is that Matt Moreno's burner? Do we know what his YouTube burner is like? Brendan.
So is Matt saying it's gonna be a Dodgers win or a Dodger loss?
Matt, for the sake of being honest and fair on this channel, is predicting a Giants victory tonight. Yes.
Oh,
we had some people unsubscribe. Apparently.
As you should.
Yeah, I was going to say, he got rightfully blown up in the comments, and I'm glad it happened because we don't need that type of bad juju. I know I said when he made the prediction, like, no one could accuse us of being biased anymore, but I'd rather be called biased than be putting bad juju out there. So you can't be predicting the Dodgers to lose this game.
He's out of my phone as soon as we hang up.
The good news is Matt is 2-1 in games that 3-1 is in playoff games that he has attended this year. Daniel, on the other hand, is 0-1 in games that he has attended. The good news, Matt will be there. Daniel will not be there.
Home.
So it's good news there. A couple more predictions here. Dodgers 5-2. Yair, he's got player of the game, Cody Bellinger, with the surprise home run. Look, if Cody Bellinger hits a big home run in this one, all will be forgiven and forgotten forever. Like 2020.
I wouldn't even care that he batted 150 all season. That means nothing.
Not at all.
Nope.
Not at all. It would be.
Give him a contract if he does well.
Totally. Up the arbitration number, if you ask me.
Right.
Eddie's got Lux player of the game. Some people not happy with Matt in the chat here. That's all right. We love Matt, and THP's got 2-1 Dodgers. Let's see, and then we got 6-5 Dodgers. So lots of Dodger predictions as you would expect. So there you go. So here's the plan. As I said, Greg and I will be live post-game as soon as this one ends, a few minutes afterward, right here, Dodger Blue 1958 on YouTube. Please be sure to join us. Win or lose, we'll be here breaking it all down, reacting. Daniel, unfortunately, will not be here, but hopefully, as we're all predicting, this is not the end of the Dodger season, and Daniel and I can be back with some NLCS content later in the week. We appreciate you all for joining us. Remember, 2020 Dodgers World Series champion. As Vin Scully says, the biggest game in the history of the greatest rivalry in sports, the Los Angeles Dodgers versus the San Francisco Giants. Let's hope that the Dodgers win. Let's hope that the Dodgers win. We're feeling good. Good juju to the Dodgers. We're all predicting a win. So we'll see you here afterwards after a Dodger win. Take it easy.
The best team holding a trophy high in the air. The Los Angeles Dodgers, champions of the baseball world.